To get this panel started, I'd like to ask you if there's any thoughts or questions. Good. Everybody complains these days about how bad the economy is, but it's not that way. It's more like pop songs that want to be your friend. They want to be everybody's friends. It's an entire genre. People just support you. It's not the same way here. We are friends. Friendship is its own reward.
If I might break in for a moment, my concern with affection began in the bathroom just now, as I was looking at the tiles, which are regular. I wonder, how would any of us know if we liked each other? In the scene where Steve Martin gets into a rowboat, he's dressed as a dandy from the 19th century, and he rows a human brain across the pond.
A dilemma that I'm having lately, what I've been thinking about almost without ceasing, or is preoccupied by every waking moment, is the number of options.
Yes, that is an excellent question. That is very insightful, and it's about teleportation. Do you have any of those symptoms?
I just keep coming back to that issue you raised earlier about teleportation. Do you think one can keep falling in love an entire lifetime without ceasing? Is that in any way sustainable?
I think it is.
The question here is really about whether Steve Martin loves the brain, or if he really loves the idea of the brain. Let's get everyone to comment on that briefly.
All right, I have a comment and a question. First of all, what is the nature of the events? If anyone could address that for me, I would appreciate it. And finally, I'd just like to thank everyone for participating in this meeting. I agree with the panel today in that regard.
I'm going to have to differ from my colleagues here. You see, that's regrettable because I was under the impression that we had carefully crafted a united front. We would all be together, just like Benjamin Franklin said. There used to be a sense of comradeship.
I think you're being a little too harsh. Don't rush to judgment.
I suspect that at the root of your argument, there is a malicious assumption about the uses of history.
This is becoming strange.
I have two comments on the question. The Earth's magnetic poles will one day be reversed, and I think we're obligated to keep in mind that our country is at war. In light of this fact, how would you have access to any of Steve Martin's thoughts or emotions as he sits in a rowboat with human brains?
That is patently false. I'm having some trouble engaging you here, panelist A, because I think we have some basic differences in terminology. When you use the term teleportation, could you please explain to me exactly what you mean? Are you talking about field notes or something actually published in an accredited journal?
Are you implying my credentials are false?
All of us have meaningless credentials. That's not the issue here.
I really believe in what Dr. Franklin said about the rising rather than the setting of the sun.
That is so trite.
Do you think that if we keep ignoring this, it will just go away? We've turned our back on this problem for far too long. Nobody used to teach about teleportation. There's a secret word that we whispered to each other in hallways. Now, I first encountered it sewn into the lines of the new Australian movie guide.
Panelist B, you are becoming sentimental. Let's not forget that we all have tenure. There's nothing to stop you from throwing yourself on the funeral pyre.
My feelings are hurt at this point. There is hoping, and then there is hoping in vain. What do you want of me? Could each of you address that? And please, add a concluding remark, as our time is almost up.
I have nothing to say to you. I think the most important thing is to keep multiplying. If you can't see the tenderness that's there, plainly there on Steve Martin's face, then I think you are looking. In the final evaluation, I would ultimately choose the stupid woman with the hot body.
I have one comment, and that is the calculus of risk sometimes wakes me up in the middle of the night. I lie there in a cold sweat, just thinking about the number of options. I'll lay there, just bracketing off whether or not Steve Martin truly loves the brain, or how many types of delusional love are there, or what are the symptoms of friendship. I would never die for anybody because that is simply not practical.
I've played the cards life has dealt me. I filled in the empty spaces.
That's true. Those cards have not always been fair or correct.
It's because the minds of others are inscrutable.
That's true.
Your voice is faint, I can barely hear it.
What can I know about you?
Well, I know you have a nice body, but that might be all I ever know about you. I can tell you that I used to lie awake at night for fear that I would fall asleep and wake up as a different person. In this anxious fantasy, I would wake up as the other person and realize that I was that person, but I could only think and act as the new person, although I still longed for my old self. Fear kept me awake at night. And then I discovered the brain. That thing that's constantly in us, keeping us who we are.
Have you seen your brain?
Of course, I'm an elite neurosurgeon. I find my brain agreeable.
Do you think it will ever change?
No. The only thing that will change is that my imaging software will become more advanced, discerning ever more discrete functional units, revealing neural networks and memory systems I already knew were there.
Will I ever change?
I juiced the lemons life has thrown at me. I filled in the empty spaces.
Tell me, do you have any friends?
Of course not. I'm an elite neurosurgeon, and sometimes I lose a patient, and this is something I'd have to tell my friends if I had any.
You wouldn't necessarily have to tell them. You could just say you were having a bad day and leave it at that.
They can read your mind. It's no use with friends.
I can't read your mind.
You know how many options you have?
No.
Would you like to know? I mean, technically it's a violation of HIPAA regulations, but I could tell you if you want to know.
I think I'd rather not.
You have an infinite number of options. You could be anyone on the face of the earth, provided I can find them and saw their skull open. You could be one of 6 billion people. You could probably also be any primate.
Isn't that a gross fallacy?
I have no idea. For my position as an elite neurosurgeon and an unhappily married man, I find the prospect of radical, technologically enabled freedom to sculpt one's personality from whole cloth, personally and professionally, all I've ever desired.
But this is me we're talking about.
And you're my friend, and I only want for you what I want for myself.
Don't you love me?
I love you. I've caught the emptiness and zested the lemon peel of life.
I can't remember what lemons taste like.
This gets very straining for me sometimes.
I don't remember what running feels like. I can't remember the feeling of handcuffs snapping shut around my wrists. I don't remember swallowing food down the wrong pipe and having to cough disruptively.
Do you want information from me, or do you want to be my friend?
I've fallen in love with you. That's my only hope, clinically.
And how many times have you fallen in love with a dashing scientist who was your last clinical hope?
I can't remember.
And do you think you could string yourself along like that forever?
Well, eventually, the premise would wear thin and my contract would fail to be renewed.
And then, what would happen to you?
Don't you love me?
We're using each other. I have a lot of friends in jail. You're just getting to know me in the scene.
There are people in the world who I would die for. I mean, I haven't done the math on this, but I would probably die to save the president. If his assassination meant the onset of nuclear war and the end of life on Earth. I guess these are all just thought experiments. But I would die to save someone I love.
I've been used in the past. I know how that feels.
Maybe you don't understand.
It's not that complicated. I think you underestimate me a great deal. I'm prepared to give you my body. Or an equivalent body. And it's just that it tires me sometimes thinking about how much I promised you.
Well, I'm sorry that you're tired, but I don't think you do understand. I don't need anything from you. I'm here to give myself to you. If we both give ourselves to each other, there will be only one of us. Or a monstrosity. Or an abstract simultaneous presence. someone has to be cruel to uphold the traditional way of doing things.
You're asking me to be cruel to you?
Doesn't it make sense that the hardest thing would be required? And that it means never changing anything at all? One or another of those thunderstorms?
You're not as qualified as you can be on this. That's probably your deepest flaw. What experience do you have? What are your credentials? I'm beginning to think you might not even have a nice body.
I do!